Alright, hi guys. We're going to start reading chapters 3 and 4 of the adapted version of Holes. Try to bear with me a little bit. These ones are a little longer than the first two chapters were. But if you want to follow along with me on your sheet, please feel free. Alright, chapter 3. Stanley rides to Camp Green Lake on a bus with a bus driver and a guard with a gun. He carries a backpack with a toothbrush, toothpaste, and a box of stationery that he plans to use to write to his mother. Stanley pretends that he is going to a camp like the ones rich children go to. Stanley hopes that he will make friends at Camp Green Lake. He is overweight, and at home, kids and teachers say mean things about his weight. His math teacher, Mrs. Bell, once taught ratios by comparing Stanley to a boy who weighed 1/3 as much as he did. Stanley had been arrested on the day of the ratio lesson for a crime he did not commit. Stanley and his family always seem to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they blame their bad luck on Stanley's no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather. This great-great-grandfather had stolen a pig from a gypsy who only had one leg. The gypsy put a curse on the great-great-grandfather and his descendants. Although they do not believe in curses, Stanley's family has very bad luck. Stanley remembers a song that his father often sings to him about a wolf and a bird who wish life was easier. Stanley's father is an inventor, and although he is smart and works very hard, he never has any luck. Because he never has any luck, his inventions never work. Stanley's father and grandfather and great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather are all named Stanley Yelnats. Because of this, the protagonist, Stanley, is Stanley Yelnats IV. Stanley's first name is his last name, spelled backwards. All Stanley Yelnatses have retained hope even when faced with very bad luck. The first Stanley Yelnats, the protagonist's great-grandfather, made a fortune on the stock market. The family's bad luck struck him when he moved from New York to California and was robbed by Kissin' Kate Barlow. If Stanley's great-grandfather had not been robbed, then Stanley might be living in a mansion in California instead of in a Texas apartment that smells of burning rubber and foot odor caused by Stanley's father's attempts to invent a way to recycle old sneakers. Stanley thinks it is cool that his great-grandfather was robbed by an outlaw. Kate Barlow did not actually kiss Stanley's great-grandfather because she did not kill him. She only kissed the men she killed. Stanley arrives at Camp Green Lake, but he can't see any greenery. Chapter 4. Stanley leaves the bus and finds he is dazed and has a dry throat from the heat. He sees a few tents, a few buildings, and 2 trees by a cabin. Other than the 2 trees, he cannot see any other sign of plant life, not even weeds. Stanley enters a building with a sign signifying the beginning of Camp Green Lake Juvenile Correction Facility, and another sign prohibiting guns, explosives, weapons, drugs, and alcohol. Stanley thinks it is obvious that one would not carry these things into camp. He meets Mr. Sir inside the air-conditioned building. Mr. Sir is eating sunflower seeds and says that they are his substitute for smoking. Mr. Sir introduces himself and commands Stanley to always call him Mr. Sir. Then he tells Stanley, "You're not in the Girl Scouts anymore." Stanley removes his clothing so that Mr. Sir can make sure that he is not hiding anything beneath them. Mr. Sir gives Stanley 2 sets of orange jumpsuits, orange t-shirts, yellow socks, and 1 towel. Mr. Sir then tells Stanley that 1 set of clothing is for working and the other is for relaxation. Every 3 days, 1 set of clothing will be washed. He has to dig a hole every day, even on Saturdays and Sundays. Every hole has to be 5 feet deep and 5 feet across. His shovel is 5 feet long and is to be used as a measuring stick. Breakfast is at 4:30 a.m. so that the boys can work before the sun is out and the day gets hotter. Mr. Sir tells Stanley that there is nothing to prevent Stanley from running away, because there is nothing to run to. They are surrounded by desert, and the only water is at the camp. Mr. Sir has a gun, but he tells Stanley that it is only used to shoot yellow-spotted lizards. He asks Stanley if he is thirsty, and when Stanley responds that he is, Mr. Sir tells him to get used to it.